In the mid-13th century, a storm unlike any seen before swept across the known world. From the vast steppes of Central Asia emerged the Mongol Empire, a force described by its terrified contemporaries as unstoppable, brutal, and utterly relentless. Under the leadership of Genghis Khan and his successors, the Mongol war machine expanded with terrifying speed. Their cavalry armies, disciplined and fierce, seemed to appear from nowhere, overwhelming kingdoms and empire alike. City after city, fortress after fortress, fell before the Mongol wrath. From China to Persia, from Russia to Eastern Europe, the map of the world was being redrawn in blood and fire. Resistance was often met with total annihilation. The year 1258 marked a devastating turning point. Hulagu Khan, grandson of Genghis, turned his gaze towards the heartlands of the Islamic world. His target, Baghdad, the illustrious capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, a center of learning and culture for centuries. The destruction of Baghdad was a blow of unimaginable magnitude. The city was sacked, its libraries burned, its inhabitants massacred. It was not just a military defeat, it was a profound cultural and psychological trauma for the entire Islamic world. The Mongols' brutal efficiency in warfare and their willingness to utterly destroy those who resisted instilled a deep psychological terror and dread across continents. Their reputation preceded them, often causing cities to surrender without a fight. With Baghdad fallen and the Caliphate extinguished, the path lay open. Egypt and the remaining Islamic heartlands, including the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, were next in line for conquest by the seemingly invincible Mongol hordes. The question loomed large over the surviving kingdoms: how could anyone possibly stand against this tide? How did a relatively small Mamluk force in Egypt succeed where mighty empire had failed? Standing as the last major independent power in the region was the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt. The Mamluks were a unique military force, unlike any other ruling dynasty of the time. They were composed primarily of former slave soldiers, often of Turkish or Circassian origin, who had been purchased, trained, and indoctrinated into a formidable military caste loyal only to their masters and their own order. Over time, these slave soldiers had risen through the ranks, eventually seizing power in Egypt in 1250. They established a military meritocracy, where skill and loyalty determined one's position. At this critical juncture, the Mamluk Sultanate was led by the brilliant Sultan Qutuz. He was a man of courage and determination, who understood the gravity of the threat facing his realm and the wider Islamic world. Alongside Qutuz stood the formidable military strategist and future Sultan, Baibars. A veteran commander known for his tactical genius and ferocity in battle, Baibars would play a pivotal role in the coming confrontation. The Mamluks, forged in constant warfare and internal struggles, recognized the existential threat posed by the Mongols. They knew that submission meant destruction, and that their survival, and perhaps the survival of the Islamic world, depended on their ability to fight and win. As the Mongol armies advanced, their customary envoys arrived in Cairo. They carried a letter from Hulagu Khan, filled with arrogant demands for submission, threatening total annihilation if the Mamluks dared to resist. The Mamluk court faced a moment of profound decision. The weight of history and the fate of millions rested on their choice. While some advocated for caution or even submission, Sultan Qutuz, supported by Baibars and other key emirs, made a bold and defiant decision. They chose to confront the invaders head-on, to meet the Mongol threat not within the walls of Cairo, but out in the open field. This was a gamble of immense proportions, but they believed it was their only chance. The stage was set for a clash of titans, a battle that would determine the fate of Egypt, the Levant, and potentially the course of global history. The seemingly unstoppable force of the Mongols was about to meet an unyielding shield. The Mongol force advancing into Palestine was commanded by Kitbuka Noyam, a seasoned and highly respected general. He was a Nestorian Christian and one of Hulagu's most trusted lieutenants. Kitbuka had been left behind by Hulagu Khan, who had departed for Central Asia with the bulk of his army upon receiving news of the death of the great Khan Mongol. This departure significantly reduced the size of the Mongol force in the Levant, a factor the Mamluks were aware of. Understanding the importance of strategic positioning and the need to choose their ground, the Mamluks did not wait for the Mongols to reach Egypt. Instead, they marched north into Palestine to meet them. The Mamluk army, led by Qutuz and Baibars, moved swiftly through the Levant, consolidating support and gathering intelligence. They aimed to intercept the Mongols before they could gain further ground. The two armies finally converged in the Jezreel Valley, near a place known as Ain Jalut. The name itself, meaning the spring of Goliath, seemed to foreshadow a battle of epic, almost biblical, proportions. The battle commenced on September 3, 1260. The Mamluks, though likely outnumbered, possessed superior knowledge of the terrain and a desperate will to win. The Mamluks employed a clever and risky ambush tactic. Baibars led a smaller vanguard force to engage the Mongols directly, intended to lure the main Mongol army into a pre-arranged trap hidden in the nearby hills and valleys. Baibars masterfully orchestrated the initial engagement, feigning retreat after a brief skirmish. The Mongols, confident and eager to pursue, fell for the ruse, charging forward into the killing zone the Mamluks had prepared. The fighting was incredibly fierce. The Mongol cavalry, though trapped, fought with their characteristic ferocity. At one point, the Mamluk left flank was severely pressured and began to buckle, threatening a complete collapse. It was at this critical moment that Sultan Qutuz personally entered the fray. He rallied his wavering troops, throwing his helmet to the ground in a display of defiance and shouting his war cry. His courage inspired the Mamluks to hold the line and push back. Against all expectations, the Mamluks ultimately prevailed in the battle. The ambush, combined with the Mamluks' discipline, courage, and Qutuz's decisive leadership, proved to be the Mongols' undoing. The Mongol commander, Kitbuka, fought bravely but was eventually captured. He was brought before Sultan Qutuz and, after a defiant exchange, was executed. His death was a major blow to Mongol prestige and leadership in the region. The victory at Ain Jalut had profound and far-reaching consequences. It marked the first time a Mongol army had been decisively defeated in open battle by a non-Mongol force, shattering their aura of invincibility. Crucially, the Mongols never again posed a serious threat to Egypt or the holy cities of Makkah and Medina. Subsequent Mongol attempts to invade the Levant were repulsed by the Mamluks. The Mamluks emerged from Ain Jalut not just as the rulers of Egypt, but as the undisputed defenders of the Islamic world against the Mongol tide. This victory cemented their legitimacy and ushered in centuries of their powerful rule over Egypt and Syria. The defeat at Ain Jalut sent shockwaves across Asia. It demonstrated that the Mongols could be beaten, inspiring resistance in other regions and contributing to the eventual fragmentation and decline of the vast Mongol Empire. The spring of Goliath had indeed become the grave of the seemingly unstoppable Mongol advance. The Battle of Ain Jalut reminds us that even the mightiest empire can fall. History is shaped not just by kings and conquerors, but by courage, strategy, and timing. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe for more epic history, and check out our video on the fall of Baghdad and the legacy of Baibars.